Hello and welcome back to Bookish. Today I thought I would do a video in which I respond to comments from commenters that I've had on some of my videos. Now, to be honest with you, this is actually me taking a second chance or a second shot at commenting on comments left on my channel. I do make a really conscientious effort, I think, to respond to every single comment I get. Sometimes I do miss one, but no matter how many comments I get, I try to respond with something in writing to every single one. And when I get rude comments, I'll talk more about this in a minute. When I get rude comments, sometimes I go into kind of combative mode and I leave kind of a snippy or a rude comment back. That kind of sparring back and forth in the comment section doesn't deter me at all. And I'll talk more about that again, like I said, in just a minute. But sometimes, on reflection, I think, well, maybe that was an okay comment, or wow, that was a lot weirder comment, or man, sometimes I just think that's a really funny comment. And sometimes I think that I want to have a chance to say something to people, to a lot of people who left kind of a similar comment. So I thought I would make this video. So the first thing you need to know is that the way I view the comment section on my channel is that it is essentially, a part of my channel, and therefore the comment section belongs to me. I am more than happy to have anyone leave any comment that they want to, assuming it's not threatening my life or something like that. And the reason why I'm happy to let people, leave comments is I have the power to get rid of those comments, to block those viewers from my channel, to block, anybody else from seeing those comments on my channel. So, I'm more than happy to do that if the need be. But I think a lot of people, because of the way the internet works and the way social media works, they expect that they can just leave a rude comment and nobody's going to say anything back to them, and nobody's going to come back at them with the same energy that they left in their comment. I'm not that person. If you're looking for somebody, if you're looking to leave a rude comment and just have somebody meekly go about their business and kind of take it and internalize it in some way, you're definitely in the wrong place. I'm just as likely to give that same energy back to you. The other thing I wanted to say before I got started on my comments is that since I'm a man on BookTube, my comment section is so incredibly tame compared to the comment sections and the comments that women booktubers and YouTubers in general get, and trans YouTubers and LGBTQ plus YouTubers and YouTubers who are people of color. These people get far, far worse comments than I do. So I want to acknowledge that. I want to use this opportunity to encourage you not to say these things to these people. I can't tell you how many times I've scanned the comment section of a female booktuber's video and find, all kinds of comments about their appearance. Let me just say, don't do that. Don't leave, gentlemen, and since I'm a man, I'm going to speak to men, don't leave those comments. It's possible that some women may be flattered and not creeped out by those comments, but you don't know that. You don't know that when you leave that comment, and since you don't know if it's going to be received as flattery, even if that's, and I don't know why you would receive it as flattery, some random person, dude from on YouTube, but even if you don't know if how it'll be received, don't leave that comment because you don't know, and it's creepy. I'm just here to tell you, it's creepy. Don't do it. Anyway, so I thought I would run through some of my favorite comments, or some comments that I thought were kind of thought-provoking on some of my recent videos, and show those over here and talk to you about those. So the first video I have comments from is one of my more recent ones, and that's 11 classic books I refuse to read. So the first comment here said, I feel like you don't like reading big books. The Iliad, Don Quixote, Les Miserables, War and Peace, and then read these, and encourage him to read these. So this comment actually raised a good point, something I've been thinking of for some time, and that is, this idea that as I get older, I'm less willing to pick up a really long book. I think that's true, but is it because I'm aware of the relatively limited amount of time and my slow reading pace and the large number of books I want to be able to read in my life, or am I just using that as an excuse to avoid reading big books that I'm not sure I would like? I think that's a really good point, and I'm not sure I know the answer to that. By the way, there were several comments along those lines. The next comment number 2 here, says, you do not have to eat broccoli or Brussels sprouts. You're welcome. I love this comment because essentially this commenter was doing two things. kind of insulting me, treating me as a child, you know, for being childish about not wanting to read these books in the way I titled it, the video and the way I made the show card, which I thought was funny. It was also kind of reassuring that there are people out there that understand that I don't actually have to read those books, and kind of nice to have somebody say it, even if they were kind of treating me like a child. By the way, I like broccoli quite a bit, and Brussels sprouts I like if they're cooked with bacon. So the next video I have comments about that I wanted to talk about is one that I knew would be controversial, because anytime I post a video about race or racism, you know, in a sense, I'm not inviting people to be rude, but I realize that I'm touching a nerve with lots of people, and part of why I make those videos is to touch that nerve and to have that conversation. So the next comment I want to share is this one. It says, the reevaluation of Cormac McCarthy, the crossing video, had caught my eye, and having just finished Cities of the Plain, I was looking forward to the review. Unfortunately, I came across this title and abandoned any notion of watching the video. I wonder what books black people should read. So several things here. This is a comment I get a lot, and that is essentially, I'm unsubscribing, or I'm not going to watch your videos because I disagree with your politics. Fine, fair enough, you know. You don't have to watch my videos if you disagree with my politics, that's fine. But it's the last line there that I really thought, have been thinking about most often. The comment says, I wonder what books black people should read. So, two things. First, I would not presume to tell black people what books to read about racism, because, you know, all, if not the vast majority of black people have experienced racism, and therefore I don't think they have to be instructed about racism or how racism works, whereas for most white people in the United States, I do not believe that to be true. And the second point I want to make is that these are books, the books I chose are books written by black people, or in one case, an indigenous person, a Native American, and these books are already read by those communities, so I don't think they need me, a white guy, telling them to read books authored by black authors, which they're more or less likely to read. They're more likely to read, and then I also just think there's just something inherently defensive about this idea. And one of the things that's one of my pet peeves is white people being defensive about racism. And I'm just going to say this again. I've said it before. If you're not a racist, don't be defensive about people calling out or people encouraging white people to be more educated on the issue of race. If you're there, then what are you defensive about? You are revealing much more about yourself with a comment like this than you are about me. So the next two comments are just along the lines of, one says unsubscribed and one says don't read left propaganda. So what bothers me about that unsubscribed one, like I said, that happens quite a bit. What bothers me about that second one is that all the books on my list were written by black authors or an indigenous author in one case. And so, you know, this comment almost implies that anything produced by a person of color, by an indigenous person, by a black person, etc., is automatically left propaganda, which, you know, I think that's incredibly problematic. So the next video I got some comments on that I thought were really interesting was 11 books I hate, or at least really dislike, and the show card said, books I hate, pretty much directly there. I got a lot of comments. I only picked one here, and I picked this one because I just thought it was kind of amusing. The comment says, you ought to hear what these 11 books are saying about you. I love that comment. It's pithy, it's funny. I really thought that one's worth sharing. The next video I had some comments about was my review of The Passenger by Cormac McCarthy. That review was, it's not that it's unpopular in the sense that a lot of people came and attacked me for my opinion about Cormac McCarthy's book, but certainly based on the reaction to my video and other reviews I've seen, my impression of The Passenger by Cormac McCarthy is the minority view, which is fine. I don't mind that. So the comment says, in other words, it went over your head. I got a lot of comments implying that I just didn't understand Cormac McCarthy's book, and I freely admit that there's lots of stuff in there that I did not understand, and I challenge anybody to understand every single thing that Cormac McCarthy mentioned in that book. And by the way, Stella Maris is worse in that respect. But one of the things that this comment and comments like this kind of convinced me of is that there's some people out there that think that a book which is over the heads of most people is automatically a great book. And I think they feel that way because if they feel like they understand more of it than somebody else did, that they must be on a higher intellectual level. And so there's kind of some snobbishness about that. I thought about this in relationship to the only two Thomas Pynchon books that I've read. The first is Gravity's Rainbow, which oftentimes I think is one of those novels that people who are really smart or think they're really smart or really educated seem to be drawn to, particularly if they're men. And I think the kind of the payoff there for them is that it rewards them for being smart. They feel like it validates them being smart. I'm not talking about everybody who loves those books. I'm just talking about some people. But the reality is that I think Pynchon's Mason and Dixon is a much better book, and it is on the whole more accessible and contains a lot fewer kind of big grandiose scientific ideas, even though those are there as well. I will admit that I didn't understand everything in The Passenger, all the scientific references, all the philosophical content or attempts or allusions that McCarthy put in there, but I really don't think anybody else did either, or if they do, it'll take a graduate level study to try to figure all that out. But that kind of comment about it went over my head. Anytime I talk about Cormac McCarthy, I'm accused essentially of being a moron who doesn't understand Cormac McCarthy, which is fine. If that's the definition of a moron, then I'll take it. And then the last video I had a lot of comments on is the video that I've had the most views on, and that's 11 modern classics that you don't need to read. So this one is the one that I'll spend the most time on. I realize it's already a long video, but there you go. I'll leave timestamps. So the first comment says, frankly, I didn't realize that Gone with the Wind was even considered a modern classic. Well, this was actually something that was curious, and I found myself in the comment section here in a kind of the uncomfortable position of defending Gone with the Wind, which I hate. I hate that book. But defending it as a modern classic because it won a Pulitzer Prize, and because it's one of the best-selling books of all times, because it's one of the most recognizable books. And so I think it's a modern classic. I just hate it. It's not a modernist classic, but I think it's a modern classic, even though I hate it. But I'm kind of interested in what you think. Do you think Gone with the Wind qualifies as a modern classic? So the next couple of comments are kind of related to me just not understanding things or me approaching things in the wrong way. So this one is a really long one. It says, sorry, but no Joyce novel isn't a you don't need to read. So what if the plot isn't interesting? That's the whole point. He focuses on the prose, and you should enjoy it for that. Ulysses has no interesting plot. The protagonists spend most of their time in school, at a funeral, at a Freeman's Journal, at a pub, etc., throwing in an affair here or there, having your landlord screw you for lack of rent, etc. It's hardly riveting stuff. But it's like blank verse. Most of the fun is just in the language itself. So this comment really makes me laugh for a couple of reasons, and some of them are just straight snark, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that here. Its author is clearly deeply disturbed by and offended by the idea that I said that included Portrait of the Artist and Young Man as a novel you don't need to read, a modernist classic you don't need to read. The first line, by the way, made me laugh, and this is the snarkiest I'll probably be, because I believe it contains a double negative. Sorry, but no Joyce novel isn't a you don't need to read. Maybe I'm missing that, but that kind of made me laugh. I think it says something that's the opposite of the author's intent. The second bit essentially says we should read boring books even though they're boring. So we can enjoy the language. I do sometimes read books just to enjoy the language or the writing. But the idea that people should have to read boring books to gain an appreciation of the language just makes me laugh, because I can't imagine anything that would make people, have a less of appreciation for language or writing than being forced to read something they find to be fundamentally boring. Choosing to do that is completely different. And then finally the comment says that Ulysses is also boring, and then lists some of its parts that are definitely not boring. The author of this comment left out the scene in a brothel, masturbation on the beach, the love affair between Bloom's wife and Blazes Boylan. Is that who it is, I believe? A lot of stuff is left out. Those things that were listed just made me laugh, because those things sound interesting. Hanging out in a pub, affairs, those are things that usually plots of novels are based on. So the next comment says, bottom line, you don't seem to understand that characters in the book aren't real. You need to evaluate them based on how they're portrayed and developed and how powerfully you react to them. You're not supposed to judge fictional characters as you would judge your neighbor. Wolf Larson, for example, is a great character but not a good guy. Please don't teach literature until you understand what it is. So again, the comment where I don't know what I'm talking about, fine, fair enough. This is related, of course, to my hatred of Gone with the Wind. And I'm going to say this again. This has to be the 5th time. I don't hate Gone with the Wind because it has racist characters. I don't hate Gone with the Wind because its characters say racist things. I think Gone with the Wind is highly suspect because it's both of its 2 male heroes, Rhett Butler and Ashley Wilkes, both commit racist acts of violence, both kill black people for racist reasons, and yet they're the hero of the book. That makes the book suspect. But what I hate about Gone with the Wind is that Margaret Mitchell, in her own voice, in other words, not in quotations, things the characters, not in the thoughts of the character, but in her own voice, endorses racist violence and endorses a warped and wrong view of race relations, the Civil War, and Reconstruction in the United States. That's why I hate it. And because it's so popular, because it's so influential, my belief is that it has warped a lot of people's views of slavery, the Civil War, the South, etc. The next comment says, honestly, you have terrible opinions. I've read a few of these books and I wonder if you're just missing the point of them. You throw out the word boring willy-nilly as if every book you read has to be the same level of excitement as the latest action movie. The only positive conclusion that I've gotten from these videos was that it has given me some books to add to my reading list. For if it is bad for you, it's probably good enough for me. I had a lot of commenters who said, now I have a list of books to read. I hate your opinion. I'm going to read these books because you didn't like them. And I see the author of this comment's points, to be honest with you. I do have a tendency, because I just kind of speak off the cuff in these videos, particularly ones in which I'm just doing kind of a short list of reasons or a short little bit about why I don't like a book or why I do like a book. I do have a tendency to fall back on words like boring or tedious too often, and maybe those aren't descriptive enough. But I do enjoy the spirit of I'm going to read these books because you told me not to. That kind of defiance sounds kind of good. Then I have 2 comments here for people who are unsubscribing that I thought they did this in a kind of a new way. This commenter said, I think I've just set a new record for subscribing and unsubscribing from a channel. Fair enough. And then I'll never watch another video from your channel again. Gotta love the unsubscribing ones. And I wonder if they know that they can unsubscribe without telling me. But I think people enjoy telling you they're unsubscribing because they're hoping, to hurt you in some way. I guess it's possible that some people are hurt by being told someone's unsubscribing, but that person's not me. I love all my subscribers. I appreciate all their support. But if I'm not for you, then I'm not for you, and that'll be fine. I'm not changing because you unsubscribed. And if I did, since you unsubscribed, you wouldn't know. Anyway, the next ones I just think are kind of funny, and I enjoyed them a great deal. This one says, Tottenham fan, of course he doesn't like modern classics. I love the use of my sports fandom to condemn my taste in books. This one says, acid reflux and t-shirts with writing on them do not inspire confidence, something to think about. Very rarely do people criticize my appearance or my gastrointestinal problems as a way to criticize my channel. I enjoyed that a great deal. This one says, my goodness, what a disturbing green color. How can anyone live in such a room? I can't even stay for the video. This one hurt because I picked this color myself. It's called Martini Olive. I really like this green color, but this viewer clearly didn't. They couldn't watch my video because of the paint color. That's a first. That's a really unique reason for not watching my videos. The next one says, can you please unstack your books? I guess they're referring to, places in the bookshelf where I have my books stacked. My response was no, because I don't have shelf space to do anything different. This one I found really curious. Sophomore spewing unctuous noise. Unctuous, I don't think it means what this person thinks it means. So I thought that was funny. And then one of my all-time favorites, who the hell is this guy? Fair enough. Apparently this person doesn't understand how social media or YouTube or the internet works, but essentially anybody can go on these platforms and, share their opinions about anything. You don't really have to have any qualifications, but, fair enough. Good question. I think my response was just to introduce him and say, hey, my name's Brian, this is my channel. I talk about books or something like that. But I enjoyed those comments. Anyway, there you go. I just thought it might be fun to run through some of those comments and kind of my reaction, maybe how my reaction has changed over time. and to share that with you. I look forward to your comments. Please feel free to use any Please feel free to leave any comment you want to in the comment section below, and I'll deal with them as I see fit. As always, thank you for watching.